Consider for a moment the woman who lives alone. She has no boyfriend, no partner, and doesn't even appear to be actively searching for one. We might initially assume her solitude stems from loneliness, a scarcity of suitable partners, or perhaps the lingering pain of a past heartbreak. However, the true explanation is far more complex, more profound, and perhaps, for many, deeply uncomfortable. It points to a reality that fundamentally challenges and deconstructs much of what society has historically ingrained in us about a woman's purpose and her essential role in relationships. When a woman consciously chooses to embrace solitude, she isn't simply getting lost in her own thoughts or fading into the background. Rather, she is embarking on a profound journey of self-discovery and profound self-realization. This particular kind of inner exploration and personal awakening rarely comes accompanied by public applause, a flurry of social media likes, or the constant comfort of company. Instead, it manifests through deep periods of quiet introspection, the cultivation of an unwavering inner strength, and the slow unfolding of a kind of deeply personal freedom that many people still struggle to fully comprehend or appreciate. No, she is not lonely. Instead, she is profoundly selective about who she allows into her inner world. She is not cold or uncaring, but has simply grown weary of consistently pouring her energy and warmth into individuals who never truly desired to feel it in return, who were perhaps indifferent to the glow she offered. There is an undeniable, almost visceral threat that emanates from a woman who confidently stands on her own, a woman who genuinely does not require a romantic relationship to feel complete and whole within herself. This very presence shatters long-held societal narratives, dismantles the ingrained myth of female emotional dependency on a male figure, and unveils a raw, unsettling truth. Many men find themselves utterly bewildered and unsure of how to interact with a woman who clearly doesn't need to be saved or completed. Simultaneously, many women, still navigating the intricate tapestry of societal expectations, are only just beginning to truly recognize and connect with themselves when confronted by the quiet yet powerfully resonant mirror of such self-possessed strength. The eminent psychologist Carl Jung once observed that everything we choose to deny or repress within ourselves ultimately becomes an integral part of our shadow, the unconscious aspects of our personality. In this light, many of these single, self-sufficient women are in fact a powerful reflection of a collective societal shadow. They represent what countless individuals secretly dream of becoming, a vision of autonomy and inner peace. Yet very few possess the genuine courage required to truly embody such an existence. They do not desperately scream for love or external validation. Instead, they calmly, almost imperceptibly, whisper their choices to the universe. They do not put themselves on elaborate display merely to attract fleeting attention. Rather, deliberately retreat into their own space to carefully preserve their precious inner selves. Their interest lies far less in charming mythical princes and significantly more in cultivating their own profound sense of personal peace and inner tranquility. This very prioritization of self makes many people deeply uncomfortable, because while the world ceaselessly demands urgency and the perceived necessity of being coupled with someone, these women have quietly unearthed and embraced the immense power that comes from simply being truly and deeply with themselves. The woman who lives alone, without a boyfriend or a partner, is not lost in any sense of the word. She is, instead, operating on an entirely different plane of existence. It is a level where nothing is begged for or desperately sought. Everything is consciously chosen. On this level, external approval is utterly unnecessary, for her own intrinsic presence is more than sufficient. And perhaps this fundamental shift is precisely why her existence often sparks such intense criticism, elicits so much unsolicited judgment, and triggers so many attempts to label her, categorize her, or provide a convenient explanation for her choices. But what many still struggle to grasp is that behind her apparent absence from traditional relationship structures lies an incredibly potent presence, a being that fills her own space, that transcends conventional expectations, and that powerfully challenges the established emotional status quo. She isn't seeking just any kind of love or connection. She desires something truly profound, a love that doesn't diminish her, that doesn't make her feel smaller or less than. And until that rare, authentic connection comes along, she stands tall, unwavering, truly whole, and beautifully complete within herself. Perhaps you don't fully grasp this concept right now, or maybe you're inclined to dismiss it as mere exaggeration, a display of arrogance, or even a subtle manifestation of unresolved emotional damage. But deep down, very deep down within your own being, there lies a quiet question that pulses persistently, even when you make every effort to ignore it. It's a whisper that asks, what if that silent path, the one less traveled, is actually the only true route that leads to the most significant and profound kind of love? The enduring, self-sustaining love that truly begins with you. The profound silence that naturally envelops a woman who chooses to live alone is not an indicator of emptiness or void. On the contrary, it is a sacred sanctuary, a deeply personal refuge. Those who fail to grasp or appreciate the intrinsic value of this self-created space often hasten to label her as cold, distant, or even arrogantly aloof. Yet, what only a discerning few truly perceive is that she did not construct this protective fortress merely to shut the world out. Rather, she meticulously built it, brick by emotional brick, to ensure that she would never again lose herself in the labyrinth of external expectations and unhealthy attachments. Carl Jung also wisely stated that everything we refuse to confront or integrate within our own selves inevitably ends up being projected onto others. And perhaps this profound truth helps explain why so many individuals, particularly other women, still mistakenly confuse solitude with absence, or equate being alone with being disconnected. In reality, for the self-aware woman, solitude can be the most fertile, nourishing ground imaginable for deep and transformative self-discovery. While most people instinctively look outward, striving to fill perceived voids through external connections and relationships, this woman consciously chose to turn her gaze inward. And there, in the immense, often intimidating vastness of her own unconscious, she courageously confronted the very ghosts she had assiduously avoided for years. Lingering childhood wounds, the echoes of unspoken abandonments, and the insidious attachments that had masqueraded as genuine love. Her momentous decision to embrace an autonomous existence did not spring from a freshly opened, bleeding wound, but rather from a deep, old scar that had finally, truly, and irrevocably healed. She didn't abandon her belief in love itself. She simply stopped accepting what others so readily labeled as love, especially when it consistently made her feel diminished and inherently smaller. This woman is intimately acquainted with chaos. She has loved so intensely that she completely lost sight of her own identity. She has given far too much of herself, often begging for mere crumbs of affection that should never have been offered, let alone accepted in the first place. But at a pivotal moment, she awakened. And that awakening wasn't a sudden, dramatic flash, but a gradual accumulation of disappointments that slowly but surely stopped inflicting pain and instead began to impart profound lessons. What you observe in her now is not a chilling coldness. It is, in fact, the radiant glow of emotional maturity. And emotional maturity, let us be honest, can be quite frightening to many because it demands a profound level of presence, a willingness to delve into true depth, and an uncompromising commitment to unwavering truth. She no longer desires just any form of company. She craves genuine reciprocity, a balanced exchange of energy and affection. She is no longer swayed by fleeting promises or grand declarations, but is drawn instead to real, consistent presence and authentic action. Perhaps this is why she often appears unreachable or even intimidating to many. It's because she doesn't wish to be saved or rescued from anything. What she truly desires is to be deeply seen, genuinely understood, and fully accepted for who she is in her entirety. And that kind of profound recognition requires far more than superficial charm or sweet, empty words. It demands immense courage. The courage to dive into the often unsettling depths of another person's soul, a place where very few dare to venture. And this is precisely where many people give up. Not because she is inherently difficult or overly demanding, but because she is fundamentally whole and complete within herself. When a woman achieves this state of profound wholeness, she inevitably awakens two distinct, often extreme reactions in the world around her: deep admiration and palpable fear. Admiration flows from those who are themselves on a quest for similar inner wholeness, recognizing a kindred spirit. Fear, on the other hand, emanates from those who still live in fragmented halves, perpetually waiting for someone else to magically make them feel complete. She harbors no desire to complete anyone else. Her aspiration is to truly overflow alongside someone who has also diligently found and cultivated their own sense of self-completeness. Until such a profound connection manifests, she remains alone, not as a whimsical twist of fate, but out of an unshakable, fierce loyalty to her own precious soul. This woman is not merely hiding from the world. She is actively and consciously protecting herself. There exists a vast and crucial distinction between isolating oneself out of fear or sadness and deliberately preserving one's energy, integrity, and peace. Yet the world, in its conventional wisdom, struggles to easily accept a woman like this. It is a world that continues to preach the fairy tale of happily ever after as something that only exists in pairs, perpetually distrusting those who navigate life without a partner, as if their singleness were an undeniable mark of failure or deficiency. Carl Jung once astutely remarked that where convention rules, there's little room for authenticity. And this woman, with every breath she takes, clearly does not live by the rigid dictates of convention. She lives, breathes, and thrives by her deepest essence. She frequently encounters well-meaning, yet often misguided, phrases like, "You're far," "too picky," "You really should be more open-minded," or "Nobody's perfect, you know." And in response, she offers a calm, steady, almost ironically knowing smile. This is because she understands, with absolute clarity, that what many mistakenly label as picky is, in fact, simply her bare minimum, the fundamental baseline of respect, emotional depth, and genuine connection that took her decades of painful lessons and profound self-reflection to finally realize she genuinely deserves. She isn't fruitlessly searching for an elusive ideal of perfection. She is, instead, seeking a partner who is mature enough to love authentically without inadvertently destroying. Someone who has diligently undertaken the same arduous inner work that she herself has already faced and surmounted. And let's be utterly honest with ourselves. That kind of evolved individual is not something one simply stumbles upon on just any street corner. The profound discomfort she often causes isn't merely in the words she speaks, but rather in the powerful truth she inherently represents. She stands as living proof, a tangible embodiment, that it is entirely possible to experience deep, abiding happiness and fulfillment without depending on anyone else for it. And this revolutionary truth inevitably tears masks off. Men who unconsciously feed on female insecurity suddenly feel profoundly threatened. Women still ensnared in the relentless need for external approval feel subtly, yet powerfully, judged. But she is not here to confront anyone directly or intentionally provoke. She is simply being. And the raw, unadulterated authenticity of someone who has profoundly freed herself becomes, by its very existence, a brutal and unavoidable mirror for those who are still living, consciously or unconsciously, in emotional chains. This woman is not in any hurry. She feels no compulsion to rush things or accelerate processes simply to please anyone else's timeline or expectations. She honors and respects her own intrinsic pace, an internal rhythm that is entirely her own. And for this, she subtly, silently, stirs a quiet fury in a society that relentlessly demands everything now, instantly. She yearns for true depth, while the world around her frantically chases fleeting distractions. She desires profound presence, while the world offers only superficial availability and fleeting glances. She deeply longs for soul-level bonds, authentic connections that resonate at the core of her being, while everyone else is primarily concerned with looking interesting and captivating on their next Instagram story. And when she says no, it is not a manipulative game or a test. It is an unvarnished truth. When she chooses to walk away, it is not theatrical drama. It is a profound act of self-defense and self-preservation. When she opts to stay home, enveloped in her own peace, instead of going out with someone who feels emotionally empty or draining, it is not arrogance, it is absolute clarity. And that clarity, hard-won through periods of intense pain and profound surrender, is her greatest, most silent revolution. Because she does not live to please others, she lives simply to be. And that simple, yet profound act of being is precisely what makes her so profoundly dangerous, so unsettling to the established system. Perhaps what truly unsettles people most about this woman isn't her visible solitude itself, but rather the deep, unshakable peace she has so clearly found within her own self. Carl Jung taught us that those who look outward dream, but those who look inward awaken. And it was precisely that arduous, often solitary inner journey that she undertook with unwavering resolve. It was far from easy. It was a grueling, demanding process of meticulously stripping away masks, courageously facing the persistent ghosts of emotional dependency, and painstakingly rebuilding herself piece by precious piece. She no longer defines her worth or identity through the shifting, often critical eyes of others. She sees herself clearly and unequivocally through her own eyes, with her own internal wisdom. And that fundamental shift, that radical realignment of perspective, changes absolutely everything. How many times have you personally wondered if being alone truly signifies failure, or if it might actually represent a profound form of freedom? How often have you felt the subtle yet persistent societal pressure to justify your choices for not having someone perpetually by your side? This woman has felt that too, deeply and acutely. She once mistakenly believed there was something inherently wrong with her for existing alone in a world that relentlessly idolizes couples, even the demonstrably unhappy ones. But one pivotal day, a profound understanding dawned upon her. It is infinitely better, more honorable, and certainly more authentic to be truly alone than to be invisible, unheard, or diminished within the confines of a relationship. And on that transformative day, she forged an unbreakable pact with herself. Never again would she consciously accept anything less than what she unequivocally, truly deserves. Her unique path, like any journey of authentic self-discovery, is certainly not a straight, unblemished line. There are undoubtedly days of gnawing doubt, fleeting moments of profound nostalgia for what might have been, and long, quiet nights of deep, sometimes overwhelming silence. But there is also an undeniable, resilient strength that grows exponentially with each conscious decision she makes, each choice rooted in profound self-awareness. She learned through hard-won experience that true love, authentic connection, never seeks to cage or restrict. It never consumes or depletes. It never manipulates or controls. The kind of love she now desires is the expansive, liberating kind. The love that adds richness, that supports without suffocating, that encourages growth without seeking ownership. And until that extraordinary love arrives, she consciously chooses to keep growing and evolving on her own, not out of stubborn pride, but out of unwavering integrity and profound self-respect. This woman is the living embodiment of Carl Jung's concept of individuation, the lifelong process of becoming a whole, integrated individual separate from the collective. She shattered societal expectations, fearlessly faced her own shadow self, descended bravely into the depths of her unconscious mind, and has emerged more whole, more resilient, and more truly herself than ever before. And now that she profoundly recognizes herself in all her complex glory, she adamantly refuses to be just a half of anything ever again. She doesn't seek someone to complete her, for she is already complete. Instead, she desires someone with whom to share that profound, hard-won awareness, that luminous sense of self. This very stance is, understandably, intimidating to many, because it demands a high degree of emotional responsibility, a willingness to engage authentically, and a deep level of self-awareness. And sadly, few are truly willing to love responsibly in this way. Most still approach love from a place of perceived lack, from a desire for possession, or from an underlying current of fear. If she walks alone today, it is because every single step she takes echoes with profound learning. Every no she utters is a powerful act of self-respect. Every absence she imposes is a resonant reminder that love, in its purest form, should never, ever be begged for or pleaded for. She no longer feels any need to prove anything to anyone else, for that unwavering certainty, born from the deepest part of her soul, fundamentally transforms everything around her. Because a woman who has truly rediscovered and embraced herself becomes dangerous, not because of any external weapons she might wield, but because of the fierce, unshakable clarity that radiates from her very being. The woman who lives alone, without a boyfriend, is fundamentally not the same woman who once begged desperately to be loved, who once sought validation from external sources. Something profound within her broke, irrevocably changed, and it was precisely that pivotal break, that moment of internal shattering, that ultimately set her truly free. For sometimes, it is only in the crucible of collapse that the soul finds its new, stronger, more authentic form. Carl Jung famously used to say that the tree that grows to heaven must also have roots that reach down to hell. And that poignant analogy perfectly encapsulates what she has courageously lived through. She descended fearlessly into the metaphorical hell of her own personal story, confronted ancestral fears that ran deep, faced inherited pains, and processed traumas that were not solely hers, but those of countless women who came before her, echoing through generations. She consciously broke cycles, patterns of behavior and unhealthy dynamics that had been repeated over and over. She emphatically said no to relationships that merely replayed the same toxic script, the familiar emotional dramas. She learned with absolute certainty that it was never her inherent job to heal anyone else, to save anyone else, or to passively accept emotional crumbs merely out of a pervasive fear of being alone. And when she finally stopped accepting less than she deserved, the world, in its collective discomfort, tried desperately to convince her that she was fundamentally wrong, that her choices were misguided. But she stood her ground, first with a tremor of uncertainty, then with growing self-awareness, and finally with an almost impenetrable invulnerability. Because someone who has profoundly lived in the abyss of their own truth no longer fears absence. They learn, instead, to nourish their soul with silence, to warm their spirit with the vibrant glow of their own presence. She is not unreachable in an arrogant sense. She simply no longer permits herself to be carelessly invaded or diminished. There is a world of crucial difference between vulnerably opening your heart and foolishly allowing yourself to be torn apart. She opens, yes, but only for those who approach her with genuine truth and authentic intent, not with rehearsed speeches, shallow platitudes, or empty, fleeting promises. She has seen enough, experienced enough, to instantly discern the profound difference between true presence and mere performance. Her intuition, sharpened by years of experience, has become an incredibly precise instrument. Her energetic field acts as an infallible filter. She can sense from a considerable distance what lacks genuine depth and sincerity, and she doesn't hesitate for a moment to gracefully, yet firmly, walk away. Her transformation is not a superficial change. It is archetypal, primal, something deeply rooted. It is as if she has tapped into an ancient, inherent wisdom, an old, forgotten memory deeply embedded in the collective feminine consciousness. The profound understanding that women were not born merely to serve or to be subservient, but to express their unique essence, not to be molded into predefined shapes, but to unapologetically overflow with their own vibrant spirit. And in accessing that powerful, dormant memory, something profound awakened within her. A wild woman, fiercely intuitive, emotionally sovereign, a woman who, though physically alone, is profoundly far from lost. She is in deep, resonant communion with something far greater than herself, with her own authentic destiny. And no matter how much society tries to reduce her with dismissive labels like cold, difficult, or distant, nothing truly sticks, nothing truly defines her, because she no longer lives to fit into constricted boxes. She lives to expand, to blossom into her fullest self. She no longer fights desperately for external attention. She simply radiates a powerful magnetic presence. She is no longer passively waiting to be chosen or selected. She actively does the choosing. And that radical reversal of logic deeply confuses and disorients those who still attempt to control or define the feminine spirit. But she is no longer bound by those antiquated attempts. She has already crossed a significant threshold. And on the other side, she discovered a profound truth, that the real, most authentic relationship with another person can only truly begin after you have loved yourself enough, deeply and completely, to no longer need anyone else for your fundamental completeness. There is something inherently sacred, almost revered, about the way she now walks through the world. She doesn't crave or require external applause, nor does she seek public validation for her worth. Her confidence is quiet, self-contained, and deeply profound. And it is precisely in that profound silence, that internal stillness, that her true, unyielding strength resides. Carl Jung said that everything we face within eventually becomes our destiny. And perhaps that is why this woman, through the courageous act of choosing herself again and again, has become the undeniable author of a destiny that few can truly comprehend, but many secretly and profoundly envy. She no longer attempts to fill internal voids with empty promises or desperately tries to convince anyone that she is worthy of love. She doesn't beg for a sliver of space in anyone's life because she has learned through invaluable experience that genuine presence, true connection, should never ever be begged for. It should always be freely and sincerely invited. And when that invitation doesn't emanate from a place of truth and authenticity, she simply, gracefully declines. She doesn't react with anger, bitterness, or resentment. She steps away with the quiet dignity of someone who has gotten lost too many times in unhealthy dynamics to allow the same old wound to reopen or fester again. What few people truly understand is that this woman still profoundly longs for love, deeply and genuinely. She still desires to be held, to be touched, to be chosen. But she wants it without, under any circumstances, losing herself in the process. Because she has spent far too long trying to squeeze her vast soul into molds that were simply too small, too restrictive for the expansive spirit she carries. Now, she only offers herself, her precious energy, and her authentic presence, where there is ample room for her to be entirely whole and complete. And that, in itself, requires a level of emotional maturity that goes far beyond superficial romance. It demands profound awareness. It requires having bravely faced one's own shadow, confronted one's deepest fears, and still choosing, consciously, to love. She is not naively looking for fairy tales or idealized romance. She is seeking a profound soul alliance, a connection where there is absolutely no domination or submission, where both individuals can grow authentically alongside each other without dimming their vibrant colors, silencing their inner pain, or shrinking their grandest dreams. And if that seems like too much for some, then so be it. Because she would unequivocally rather wait with infinite patience than merely survive on meager emotional crumbs. And to many, this sounds like sheer arrogance, but in its purest, most authentic form, it is simply profound self-love. We are, in this moment, witnessing the emergence of a new archetype of woman. A woman who has deliberately walked away from the superficial and courageously dived into the profound depths of her own being. A woman who grew weary of being merely desired for fleeting moments and, instead, chose unequivocally to be deeply respected. A woman who chose to be alone not because she had given up on the very concept of love, but precisely because she had begun to understand, at a visceral level, that real, authentic love never, ever demands self-denial or the sacrifice of one's true essence. And when a woman finally understands that profound truth, her entire world begins, subtly yet powerfully, to change. She doesn't need to raise her voice to be heard. Her sheer presence speaks volumes before any words are even uttered. Wherever she goes, the energetic field of the room subtly but unmistakably shifts, as if something invisible realigns itself. This isn't mere mysticism. It's the undeniable power of energy, the profound weight of someone who has already faced and navigated the most brutal inner wars and chose, consciously, to return to a state of peace. Not because she conquered all her fears, for fears are often companions, but because she learned to live harmoniously with them without ever being defeated or consumed by them. Carl Jung would perhaps say she found wholeness not by eliminating opposites within herself, but by courageously integrating them all. This woman does not reject love. She has simply learned, through profound experience, not to submit to unbalanced, toxic relationships where one person must inevitably dim their light so the other can seemingly shine brighter. She deeply longs to love, but in a love where her authentic essence doesn't need to be edited, pruned, or minimized. A love where she can bravely be both shadow and light, effervescent laughter and cleansing tears, profound silence and a magnificent storm. Because she has deeply realized that those who only love the pretty, convenient parts of a person haven't yet learned what love truly, profoundly is. And those who relentlessly demand constant sweetness and effortless ease still don't understand the intrinsic beauty of bitterness, the necessity of friction, and the vital role of challenge so crucial for genuine growth. She is simply too whole to ever settle for halves, too inherently free to accept prisons, cleverly disguised as care or concern, too exquisitely sensitive to endure shallow, superficial bonds, and at the very same time, strong enough with an unshakable inner fortitude to keep choosing this path, even when it inevitably hurts, even when it feels profoundly lonely, even when it is completely misunderstood by the world around her. That, precisely, is the arduous yet incredibly rewarding journey of an awakened soul, willingly giving up instant, fleeting validation in exchange for a deeper, more resonant truth. Deep down, the world, in its collective subconscious, profoundly fears women like her. Women who don't need external validation. Women who refuse to bow to societal pressures. Women who defiantly refuse to be molded into predefined, convenient shapes. They are feared because they boldly challenge invisible structures. They question old, ingrained patterns, and they shatter silent emotional contracts that once dictated that a woman only possessed inherent worth if she was safely with someone. And when she bravely breaks those insidious contracts, when she consciously rewrites her own narrative, her very existence serves as a powerful inspiration for countless others. And that, for the existing system, is dangerously, profoundly revolutionary. So she continues her journey, sometimes with tears of raw emotion in her eyes, sometimes with her chest held high in defiant pride, but always, always with her feet planted firmly on the ground, deeply rooted in her truth. Because now she knows, with absolute certainty, that she is not alone. She is profoundly, irrevocably with herself. And after everything she has lived through, after all the battles fought and won, that, within her own being, is more than enough. The love that comes after this profound self-discovery won't be a salvation, a rescue from an emptiness. It will be a celebration, an overflowing joy. It won't come to fill a void within her. It will come to simply overflow, to expand an already full cup. When a woman consciously chooses to walk alone, the world often rushes in, eager to convince her that she is making a grave mistake, that she is somehow missing out. But deep down, within her very core, she feels something profound aligning itself, settling into a perfect, resonant harmony. It is not pride or rebellious defiance. It is a rare, potent kind of wisdom that can only be born and nurtured in profound silence. It is the very same wisdom that Jung so eloquently called individuation, the arduous yet liberating process of becoming fully and completely who you are, without masks, without compromise, without apologies. And when that monumental shift truly happens, nothing outside of her, no external opinion or judgment, holds more power than the unshakable truth that pulses vibrantly inside her own chest. That truth doesn't need to shout its presence. It can powerfully manifest itself in the quiet, dignified way she closes a door without resentment, in how she gracefully withdraws when an environment no longer nourishes her soul, in the peaceful, knowing smile she wears, even with no one else by her side. Because she has discovered, at her deepest core, that being alone is not a punishment, not a deficiency. It is a sacred vow of loyalty to her own precious soul. And the soul of an awakened woman does not submit, does not dim its light, does not beg for anything. It simply is. And that, in its profound simplicity, is more than enough. The world will undoubtedly keep trying to tell her she's missing something vital. It will continue to offer enticing distractions, plastic princes, and a superficial love made purely for display. But she has already seen behind the curtain, peered past the illusions. She has already profoundly understood that it's not truly about finding someone to complete her. It's about never, ever losing herself again. And when that monumental realization truly blooms within her, everything transforms. Desire morphs into profound discernment. A sense of lack gives way to conscious choice. Waiting becomes a deliberate, meaningful path. And what once caused excruciating pain now serves as a profound teacher. What once bound her now gloriously sets her free. You can feel it, deep inside, can't you? That subtle stirring, that flicker of a spark. Maybe it's a forgotten memory, an old wound that never quite healed, a nostalgia for something you can't quite name. Perhaps it's the vivid image of a woman you once knew, or even the powerful reflection of the woman you are slowly but surely becoming. In either case, something profound within you is now asking to be seen more clearly, to be truly understood. Something that no longer comfortably fits into old molds or outdated expectations. Something that, if you dare to truly let it, could completely transform how you relate to love, to others, and most importantly, to your authentic self. That woman who chooses to live alone is far more than just someone who simply doesn't fit the conventional mold. She is a living, breathing symbol of profound emotional freedom. She is a powerful reminder that it is entirely possible to rebuild oneself, painstakingly, without haste, without debilitating fear, and without ever needing to prove anything to anyone else. She doesn't walk ahead of others, setting a frantic pace, but she doesn't follow blindly either. Instead, she courageously carves her own unique, often unpaved, and profoundly viable path. And along that transformative journey, she gently lights little fires, sparks of recognition and inspiration, for others who are also slowly but surely waking up to their own truth. If something deep inside you was profoundly touched, resonated with, or stirred by this story, perhaps it's because deep down, you too are intrinsically ready for a new, more authentic kind of love. A love that truly begins with a profound reconciliation with yourself, a deep acceptance of who you are. A love that feeds on silence, on presence, and on unwavering truth. A love that cannot be negotiated, begged for, or disguised behind pretenses. And if that truly authentic love hasn't yet found its way to you, perhaps it's because you first needed to become that magnificent woman who no longer, under any circumstances, accepts less than she profoundly deserves. And if this message has found you at precisely the right moment, or if it has awakened a forgotten part of someone you know, then I warmly invite you not to keep this profound realization to yourself. Share this video, share these words with other women who desperately need to remember their own innate strength, their own intrinsic worth. Like it, comment with your own insights, and subscribe to this channel, not out of mere impulse, but out of a conscious, deliberate choice. Because when something deeply touches the soul, the very least we can do is allow it to keep resonating within us, echoing through our lives, and bravely radiating out through us to the world.